The delegate count now estimated by NBC News, McCain at 721, Huckabee at 231. You need 1,191. And here to talk about that is the former governor of Arkansas, Mike Huckabee. Welcome back.
Thank you, Tim. Great to be back. Great to still be on my feet after all this time, because we started right here when I announced on Meet the Press a little more than a year ago.
January of 07.
Yeah.
What's your take on yesterday?
It was a great day for us. I mean, to win 2 out of the 3 and 1 to still be too close to call even the day after, I think that certainly would, by anybody's estimation, be a surprise to most of the pundits and observers who thought that this was all over last week.
You need 1,191 delegates. You have 231, as I mentioned. That means you need 960. Mm-hmm. There are only 819 delegates to win. So how are you going to do that?
Well, you know, I don't know how the math works out, but there's always the chance something stumbles. The thing is, it's not just how many I need. Senator McCain also needs that many. And if he doesn't get that many, he's not the nominee either. This thing could go to the convention. Who knows? But the one thing I know, when people say, isn't it a rather complicated and convoluted path to victory? You bet it is. But it's a real easy path to defeat. All I have to do is walk off the field. Game's over.
When will you walk off the field? If Senator McCain gets the 1191, will you quit?
Well, I think then it's over. I mean, he is the nominee at that point. But until then, you know, I haven't had one of my supporters, Tim, come to me and say, why don't you leave? Not one. None of my endorsers, none of the folks who are with me. And in fact, they're so fired up that we're having record hits and contributions go into our MikeHuckabee.com website. We've had more traffic. We had a $250,000 day. We'd never had anything like that on, I think, Friday.
Next up is Tuesday. We have Maryland and Virginia. Here's Mason-Dixon, latest polls out this morning. McCain 54, Huckabee 23 in Maryland. In Virginia, it's McCain 55, Huckabee 27. You're the decided underdog in both those states.
Oh, sure. That was before the caucuses and primaries yesterday. I think we're going to get a pretty nice little bump out of what happened in Kansas. You know, we weren't polling big in Kansas. We won 60 to 24. Most people, in fact, we didn't think Louisiana was winnable because of the way they're structured. It's a very strange structure. That was a surprise to us. Washington State. It's not quite yet over, still too close to call.
The party has declared it over.
They have, but there's some weird things. We're looking at some legal issues up there, and so we're not ready to concede that one until we understand.
On Tuesday, though, Virginia's your best state?
I think we have a shot at Virginia. I think we have a shot at Maryland. You know, I'm just one of those people that think we have a shot at everywhere we go.
Mitt Romney, who was in a similar circumstance as you were, decidedly behind in delegates, on Thursday made a different decision. Let's watch what he said.
If I fight on in my campaign all the way to the convention, I want you to know, I'm giving this a lot of thought, I'd forestall the launch of a national campaign. And frankly, I'd be making it easier for Senator Clinton or Obama to win. Frankly, in this time of war, I simply cannot let my campaign be a part of aiding a surrender to terror.
Make it easier for the Democrats to win. Are you concerned that you're draining resources that the Republicans need, that you're embarrassing Senator McCain, and that you're providing the Democrats an opportunity to win in November by continuing this fight?
Oh, that's total nonsense. Let me tell you why. First of all, I didn't set the rules for how one obtains the nomination. The party did. So the party sets rules and says, here's how the process works. They were the ones who front-loaded and allowed it to be front-loaded. So you had states like California and New York going up early, large delegate counts, but neither of those states, Tim, are going to be really decisive for the Republican in November. Now, the question I have is, do we tell the people in Texas and Ohio and Pennsylvania and all these other states, North Carolina, Nebraska, that you don't matter, we don't care what you think, we're going to go ahead and pull the plug on this whole thing and not even give you a chance to express yourselves? If our party can't have a thoughtful discussion and some meaningful debate and dialogue about the issues important to us as a party, then we're really not prepared to lead. I am prepared to lead. That's why I'm in this race. And I think I've got to continue to make the case. There are people who got me here with far fewer resources than other campaigns. And the Democrats haven't settled their nominee either. So for us to suddenly act like that we have to all step aside and have a coronation instead of an election, that's the antithesis of everything Republicans are supposed to believe. We believe that competition breeds excellence and that the lack of it breeds mediocrity.
Let me bring you back to September of '06, a comment you made about John McCain back then. Quote, I have a hard time seeing him being elected president, just because I think at times some of his views have alienated very important segments of the Republican Party. I'm not sure he can mend the fences with the evangelical wing of the party. Do you still have a hard time seeing John McCain elected president?
Well, I have an easier time seeing him elected than I do either of the Democrats. But I do think he's got some challenges with not just the evangelicals, but frankly the economic conservatives because of his opposition to the Bush tax cuts, to many of the conservatives because of his views on immigration that certainly weren't in the mainstream. They were way out of the mainstream and quite unorthodox. He has been often the voice in the wilderness. And I have great respect. As you know, I think it's interesting that the two most civil campaigns are the two that are still on their feet in the Republican Party. That's a healthy thing. We've not attacked each other. I think we have mutual respect. I like John McCain. I've said publicly, even on debate stages when I was debating him, that I thought he was a man of honor. And I do believe that. So this isn't about personal hostility. But there are significant differences that we have on the Human Life Amendment, on embryonic stem cell research on human embryos, on the McCain-Feingold Campaign Finance Act, which I think is one of the worst things that ever happened to election law in this country, and on the Bush tax cuts. And so I think that there's room for us to have that conversation.
On Thursday, you won the endorsement of Dr. James Dobson, the founder of the Focus on the Family. There's a headline saying that this is a statement that Dr. Dobson issued talking about John McCain. I am deeply disappointed with the Republican Party seems poised to select a nominee who did not support a constitutional amendment to protect the institution of marriage, voted for embryonic stem cell research to kill nascent human beings, opposed tax cuts that ended the marriage penalty, has little regard for freedom of speech, organized the Gang of 14 to preserve filibusters and judicial hearings, and has a legendary temper and often uses foul and obscene language. I am convinced Senator McCain is not a conservative. In fact, has gone out of his way to stick his thumb in the eyes of those who are. Do you agree with Dr. Dobson?
I would say that if you compare Senator McCain to Hillary or Obama, he's much a conservative. Frankly, even within the Republican Party, I'm not going to say he's anything but a conservative. I've said that publicly before. I'll say it again. I do think that there are issues where he takes sharp contrast with the mainstream of conservative thought, sometimes economically, sometimes on the social issues. And those are real sensitive issues for many of us. The life issue is a very sensitive issue for me, Tim. I think that that's a defining issue for me personally, and I think it is for many conservatives, because we think that if you are wrong on the life question, it reflects a misunderstanding of the nature of our nation and the equality of human beings, that there is intrinsic worth and value in each of us, that individual power and freedom that our founding fathers so believed in, that they put their lives on the line for it, begins to deteriorate at the point when you start saying some lives are worth more than others.
But Dr. Dobson talking about Senator McCain's temper and use of foul and obscene language. Should Dr. Dobson tone down his rhetoric?
That's Dr. Dobson's decision to make.
He says he will not vote for John McCain under any circumstances. You would if he was the nominee.
Oh, sure. I'm going to vote for the Republican nominee. I mean, I would have said that even when we had 10 people on the stage, because as I looked at the stage, I said, any of these guys are better than any of those guys, from my perspective.
Rush Limbaugh has taken after both you and John McCain. This is what Rush Limbaugh said. I'm here to tell you, if either of these two guys get the nomination, either McCain or Huckabee, it's going to destroy the Republican Party. It's going to change it forever, be the end of it. A lot of people aren't going to vote. You watch.
I really like Rush. I've been a fan for many, many years and love his show. I think he's been a great voice of conservatism. He's been one of those guys that has used a lot of humor and sometimes some sharp-tongued zingers to kind of keep the movement thoughtful. I'm disappointed what he said, because I don't think it reflects me and my record. I think he allowed some people to put information in front of him that was not accurate. But the point is, he's got a right to say what he thinks. I will make this observation, Tim. He did everything he could to knock McCain and me out of the process, and unfortunately for him, we're still the two that are on our feet.